Hey guys, you know it's springtime, and for us lawn guys, it's a great time of year. Your grass is turning green, things are starting to really thicken up. It's also a really good time for weeds to take over your lawn if you're not careful. So if you don't want your yard to end up looking like this, you might want to get yourself a tool like this. So the weeds I'm talking about in this video are dandelions or any other taproot type weed. And what I mean by taproot is a weed that has a single main root that grows straight down. The easiest way to get rid of a weed like this is to pull it. Problem is, if you don't pull that root completely intact out of the ground, the weed will just end up coming back. Now, traditionally, for years, people have been using weed pullers like this to get dandelions and taproot weeds out of the ground. The problem with using one of these tools is if you're not careful, you can actually cut the root, which kind of defeats the purpose. The other thing that I don't really like about this is you're on your knees and you got to use your hands to pull the weeds out. It's very time consuming and it's backbreaking. Nowadays, I like to use a weed puller like this. This is a tool that basically doesn't require you to bend down at all. You can stand up and remove the weed intact, in full, without hurting your back or getting on your knees or even using your hands, for the most part, to get dirty. Now, I first discovered one of these tools when I was driving by some guy in his yard. I saw her using one. I threw my car in reverse and I stopped and I had to ask him, what is that, and what is it used for? The guy showed me how it was used to pull out dandelions, and I was sold instantly. I went right on Amazon, looked up one of these things. A brand that I like to recommend is the one made by Fiskers. It's pretty cheap, and it had good reviews, and I don't seem to have any problems with it. Now, the way this tool works is you basically put these 4 prongs into the ground, surrounding the weed right in the center. Once you lean back, these 4 prongs are going to grip a hold of that weed and the taproot, and when you pull back, you'll end up pulling the weed and the root right out of the ground. Once you have the weed pulled out of the ground, you basically move the handle and it plunges the weed right off the weed puller. I find it helpful to carry around a bucket so that you could just basically put everything right into the bucket and move on to the next area. I find that 9 times out of 10, this tool will completely pull the weed out of the ground, completely intact with the entire taproot. The only complaints that I've seen people make for these tools is that they've cracked or broken. Just remember, there is a lot of plastic involved in these tools, so you don't want to be overly aggressive when using it. I will give you another tip. It's easier to pull these weeds out of the ground when the ground is slightly damp. So an early morning dew on your lawn is a good time, or if you've had your sprinklers running the day prior, or even just a good rainstorm will help. You don't want it to be soggy wet, but you want the ground to be somewhat damp, because the really dry ground is just really difficult to pull these weeds out intact, in full. So if you don't want those dandelions to take over your yard, get yourself a tool like this. As always, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to click that like button and hit subscribe if you like my channel.